So what I'm going to discuss is, let's have a glance of areas which I'm going to cover today. We will talk about globally distributed teams and the need for the hour from verification and validation point of view. And how do we accomplish the process activities, and how do we generate the evidence for certification? How automated tools are going to help to overcome the challenges for process standards. And dealing with distributed teams, how LDRA tool suits new features and facility help you to enable for certification. So I would like to recall to 2020, the COVID times. So what happened? So some of us escaped from Bangalore, some of us were sitting in remote locations, we were at home, but our work was going on, right? So we were in different locations, but still we were working. So and we got many requests from our clients to change or transfer the license so that the license can be enabled, so people who are working remotely, they can get access to the license and they can do their verification activities. Okay. So, and also it proved that even though we worked remotely in different time zones or maybe in different cities or from home, we have proved that the productivity was on a higher side, right? So still many companies, they are flexible on timing, even if the people are locally available, and sometimes even global teams are involved in the development activity. But there are a lot of challenges which we need to look at, right? So how do we collaborate, and what about the communication between the team members? So we have communication tools, but still it's a challenge. And how do we make sure that the team cohesion is maintained? How do we ensure that the company's culture is inhibited with each and every team members, right? And people may be in different time slots, different time zones, right? And how do we ensure that the security policies of the company and which is implemented with each and every team members. So these are some of the challenges with distributed teams. Now coming to verification activity also, we face the same challenges, because what we have seen is like the tool suite has been installed on a local server and multiple team members were accessing these licenses and they were independently producing the artifacts after completing their static analysis, dynamic analysis, or even the requirement-based testing. Now, this is not the scenario today. People are distributed, so we need to deal with such kind of a scenario. So let's see how LDRA's new features or modules which will help you to overcome all these challenges. Now before getting into that, let's see some of the standards like which we are supporting today. So we have the DRDO guidelines for software development. We have LDRA tool suite has the facility to do the V&V activities according to the DGSD guidelines. And offline we have seen even many people are trying to comply with the new, not new, maybe it is already existing process guidelines on DO 326A and 356 on the objectives and requirements for addressing the security threats, as well as the tools and methodology for security, the DDP mass document for the aerospace domain, and also for unmanned aerial systems. So we have standards for software as well as for systems. So these new standards or the adoption of some of these existing standards is happening right now. So we have a distributed team and we need to comply with all these new requirements. How do we do that? So we have these challenges when we address the verification as well. So let us see what are these challenges. So now with the distributed team, we would like to say that the V&V activity is a 4-dimensional activity. So why it is being called? Because we have multiple users, we have multiple sites, and the activities are spread over space. And accumulating all these results spreads the activity over time as well. So what happens like, so we have different users, so you can see multiple users and there will be a common repository to which all these results need to be accumulated. So the functional safety manager or the team lead basically need to look at all the results which are submitted on the common repository, and then he can validate it and he can make use of it for the certification related audits or assessment. So this is how the typical scenario will look like. But the challenges associated with V&V activities, the allocation of verification task, because we have multiple team members, some people work on different time slots, some people work on different zones in different cities, right? How do we allocate all the verification activities? And how do we gather all these reports from the users? Tracking the work status, so how to monitor it, how to track it, and is there a common reporting format? Because when you look at all these DO 178C or ISO 26262, you may get templates which you can reuse, and everyone need to have the same kind of format for the reporting. So these challenges we need to address, and that's how we have come up with a solution called as LDRA Vault. So LDRA Vault is nothing but it is a web-based solution for distributed teams to monitor and gather the reports, track the progress of the verification activity, and also to efficiently manage all the artifacts for compliance and certification. So the moment you do your static analysis or dynamic analysis, by the click of a button, all these reports can be uploaded to the central repository. So you can host these servers on local servers. So if it is a single team within an organization, you can use local servers. Or if it is a global team, you can use enterprise servers like AWS or similar kind of servers, and you can host it. And it allows you to track multiple users and result from multiple sites. And we can accumulate all the results, and we can have an overview of the progress of the project. It aggregates all the kind of V&V reports, the static reports, dynamic reports, unit testing report, as well as traceability reports from TB Manager. So this is how usually it works. So the users will be having access to the static analysis tools, so they can complete all the static analysis, the code review violations, corrections, deviations, everything they can do it. And they may have configuration files which are associated with all these static analysis activity. So the complete report can be uploaded into the database, and even the dynamic analysis report after performing a test on the target, you can upload it. So LDRA Vault will be able to access this data from the server, and it will be able to display it in a manner where it can be easily identified about the project status. So we have projects, the aggregation of projects is based on multiple files and sets, because people will be dealing with different variants of the same software sometimes. So in such scenario, you can have components, and for each variants you can have different sets, and in each of the set you can have multiple files. In some other situation, it may not be different variants of the software, so you may have the same software, but on a daily basis you may have versions, right? So depending on how many violations are identified, or depending on new requirements which are coming up, or the requirements which are changing, you may have different version of source code checked out from your version control system. So you can have components and different versions, you can maintain as different sets, and you can have files under that, and you can do the analysis. And this is a sample report from the LDRA Vault for one of the project, which contains 10 files, and it shows the number of violations for these 10 files, the statement coverage, branch coverage, MCDC coverage. So all these reports, the summary report is actually an aggregation of reports which are submitted from the different users. So it's not just one user, so multiple users reports will be aggregated, and the tool will show the complete information about the project status, right? So here is another view of the LDRA Vault, where we have multiple components, multiple users, and how do we track a particular project. So you can see here now who has uploaded which project reports, and you can see the description and detailed report. If you click on the view reports, you will be getting detailed report which is submitted by that particular user. So all these different submissions will be aggregated, and you will be able to see the summary in percentage. So at any point of time, the functional safety manager or the team lead, he will be able to access it, and he will be able to see the details. And if you wish to go to the granular details of each and everything, like you can see the overview, source files, code coverage, unit test. So there are a lot of menu items available, including the traceability menus, where the reports are getting uploaded from the TB manager. So you can navigate to each of these menus and detailed reports you can access and see, and the manager can validate it or accept it, right? Now, also this Vault is able to provide you trend graphs. So trend graph is with respect to the submission from the user, like for example, in static analysis, we would like to see that the number of violations are getting reduced after each iteration of your new version of the source code, right? So you need to see that the number of violations what you are seeing on this particular line, this has to come down. And also the code coverage, which has to go upwards when you do the unit testing or integration testing activity. So this has to go towards 100% and the violations need to come down to 0%. So that gives an overview of the whole project, how it is getting progressed with the verification and verification activities. Now coming to the requirement traceability and process standards, all of us are aware about different standards, the DO 178C, IEC 61508, 26262, medical standards, rail standards, and all of this enforce for requirement-based testing and requirements verification. So requirement verification involves two types of activities, the reviews and requirements coverage. So coverage is nothing but like we can see the traceability that gives us information about coverage between different levels of requirements. But reviews, how do you do that? So reviews actually you can do peer reviews like walkthroughs and inspections are there. Walkthroughs are informal way of doing the reviews, and you have the formal way, which is basically inspections where the review notes related to the characteristics and properties of the requirements need to be reviewed and review notes need to be added. Now, in addition to that, traceability. So requirement-based testing can be performed to ensure that all the requirements are implemented and tested. So you can see here the hierarchical information from a system level requirement to high level to low level, and the source code is mapped to the low level requirements, and respective test cases are available for the low level requirement. So you can see the test cases which are derived for the low level requirements, and once it is completed, you will be able to get traceability from requirements to test cases to ensure that all the test cases are verified and requirement to test case coverage is achieved. So the relationship from system requirements to high level requirements to high level test or low level test and the source code, you will be able to see it as a report. So I think the users of the TB manager, old users, you will be aware of the relationship view. Now the entire relationship view is available as a TB manager project report. So that gives you enough information about how many requirements are missing a test, how many requirements are already mapped to test cases, and how many of them are already verified and accepted. So all this information from this table you will be able to see. If you wish to go to the granular level, you have all this detailing of the reports available in the menu. Click on these menu items and you will be able to navigate to different levels of traceability on whether it is vertical traceability or horizontal traceability. All this information you will be able to see from the reports. And also we are able to provide you impact analysis report, because many a times we hear this question, it's not only the source code, we have different levels of requirements. It may be the FSRs, TSRs, SSRs, a lot of requirements will be available. And one requirement in one of this document may be changing or an addition may happen, right? In such scenario, we are supposed to look at the impact analysis. So impact analysis on the sub-level of requirements. For example, if a functional safety requirement is changed or modified, you need to see that on the downstream, what is the impact of it. So it may have an impact on the software safety requirement. From FSR to SSR, there may be impact. So you can see the sub-level requirement impact. Source functions, because already we have functions which are mapped to requirements. So we can see that how many functions are affected due to a change in a specific requirement. If there is a new requirement which is implemented, then do we have mapping for the new requirement to a piece of software? And what about the test cases? So that's what is 360-degree traceability. So we can see if one of the document is changed, we can see the impact with respect to these changes. And the tracking of the changes can be for new requirement or it can be for modified requirement. So let us see an example here. So the test cases associated with the updated requirements. So I'm not sure why the requirement is not coming up there. I can see that. All right. So what exactly shows is like it will show you a summary of the high level requirements and the traceability in case if there is a change. So I think at least you can see here. So here I have a high level requirement and you can see here the status here is not covered. So that indicates that if you look at the upstream information or downstream information, upstream means the high level which is mapping to the system level. Downstream means the high level which is mapping to the low level requirement. So if it is uncovered, it will be highlighted in the report and it will be visible to the user. So finally, we are supposed to get even the source code impact analysis report. So if there is a version change in the source code due to the iterations which you are creating and uploading in your version control system, you can immediately load it, run it, and you can see that there are 4 functions right now which has been modified and the mapping to the low level requirement has been missed out here. That's the reason it is highlighted in red color. And the remaining ones you can see that the source code change has not impacted because in this case, I have changed only one file. The remaining files are same, so the traceability is still there. So that you can see as a source code impact analysis report from TB Manager. So that becomes easy for you whenever you have new versions coming out every day. And coding standard support as of now, I think most of you are aware about the coding standards which we support. But as discussed today morning, Mr. Banks was talking about the new versions of MISRA C and MISRA C++. So in our current TB Vision, we have support for MISRA C 2023 as well as MISRA C++ 2023 support. And also we have support for the DRDO guideline for software development coding standards. So this has been already inbuilt into LDRA toolsuite, and if anybody wish to see a live demo, you can just come to our booth and we will be able to show you the compliance. All right, so this is how the MISRA C 2023 reports look like. And again, all these reports, this is the C++ 2023 report, so all these reports can be uploaded to the vault and it can be accessed. And also there is a easy deviation process which is now available in TB Vision. So you don't need to manually edit the source code with annotations and things like that to justify your deviations. So it can be automated using the tool. So within the tool, whenever you identify a violation and if you need to have an exclusion, you can directly do this exclusion and you have provision there for adding a deviation. And these deviations can be added for a specific version of the source code. And suppose you have hundreds of deviations in that version and you want to reuse it. So the configurations which you have used for all these deviations can be saved in an ini file and you can use it for your next version. So you do not need to spend the same amount of time on creating all these deviations in the tool. So you can save a lot of time by reusing the existing deviation list. So in a day, if you have 2 iterations or 3 iterations of the source code, definitely you can reuse it and quickly complete all the static analysis and the reports can be uploaded to the vault. So that makes things easier, right? Now we have new security reports as well. So security audit and security reports. So TB Vision is able to provide you a taint analysis report, which gives you information on tainted data source as well as the propagation of tainted data. So if there is a data item which is coming from an external source like a peripheral or a library or somewhere, and it can identify whether it is a tainted data or not. And the propagation of this tainted data into different functions, different places, all this information the tool will be able to provide you. So right now this is configured for the GCC library, but we can configure the taint analysis for any third-party open source library in case if you are using. So that makes the taint analysis easier. And also new security weakness report, security audit reports are available. So on the right hand side, you can see the security distribution of CWE, CERT coding standards and MISRA coding standards. So you can have a comparison of these um, uh, security rule violations with the different standards, and also it provides you reports with respect to the CWE's top 25 weaknesses. So you can see the list of top 25 weaknesses by category, and you can see the number of violations for each of the rule within the category, and you can navigate and see the details in which function where exactly this particular weakness is exhibiting in your source code. So from a summary report to details and the location in the source code, you can easily navigate and identify. And coming to automated target testing, so I think most of you may be aware of the TB run and its facilities where we have automated test case generation, automated test execution, the scripting is automated, right? So these all are the normal features which we have been seeing. But we have also come up with a new feature called as TBextreme, where we can, TBextremePLUS. So Extreme, you might have already seen that we have the standard Extreme and tabular Extreme test case creation and execution with all the combination of input. But we have enhanced it to a different level, where we have the TBextremePLUS, where we can automatically generate the test case and we can populate the input conditions automatically, where the user can create user profiles, and the user profile you can define what is the criteria under which the input need to be populated. For example, I can provide min, mid and max values. If I enable the min, mid and max values for a particular configuration, and if I run the Extreme Plus, it can automatically generate that many number of test cases for the min, mid and max value. I can apply it for the data type boundaries or boundary condition for conditional statements within the code, or for boundary values, I can apply it. So different user configurations I can create, I can execute it, I can use it for robustness testing, and in web-based applications it is called as fuzz testing. Fuzz testing is nothing but providing a random combination of input and seeing that whether the application is crashing or not. But in embedded, we don't use the term fuzz testing, it is robustness testing, where the intention is to run it with a random combination of input and see that whether the behavior is deviating from the actual behavior or not. So where do we get all these inputs? TBextremePLUS can automatically provide you this input combination, and the user can configure it with different profile sets, where you can define what is the criteria for the test input generation, right? And Extreme Plus can also optimize the number of test case for maximum coverage. So for example, if it generates around 100 test cases and all the test cases has not contributed for coverage, so it can optimize it and it can tell you what is the minimal number of test case with which it is able to get 100% of code coverage. So that there is a screenshot where you can see, you can create different profiles, like I have created for requirement based test, boundary value analysis with no null pointers. And the third one is with null pointer. That means whenever I have a pointer input value, I am going to test it by pointing to null, which is an abuse case testing in terms of security. So I can automate that and run it. So we have reached target support. So I think the same target you can see in our booth as well. So we have support for bare metal applications as well as applications which are OS based, and we also support a wide array of communication mechanism between the host and target. And the customizable user interface is available, and the visualization of code coverage including test case by test case coverage. So if you wish to see test case by test case coverage, we do have mechanism to provide you coverage information with respect to each test case. So that's how the TBextremePLUS, the new module, is going to help you with automatic test case generation and input population based on user configuration. Now coming to DO178C and ISO 26262, I think most of you might have heard about the data coupling and control coupling analysis. The tool suite is capable of providing you reports for data coupling and control coupling analysis. So some of you might have already seen this report. So here the report states that the data coupling is 100% with respect to 13 data couples which exist where 2 are within the file and 11 data items are traveling across different files. So when you complete your requirement-based testing at the integration level or at the system level, the tool is able to automatically generate the data coupling reports. So then you can easily identify, is there any data items or data usage which is not executed after completing the requirement-based test. So that will be helpful to the user. So whenever you have modeling tools with simulation, you can do the coupling analysis at some level, but many people don't have modeling tools and you will be using your legacy code or handwritten code. In such scenario, the coupling analysis can be verified during your requirement-based test with the LDRA tool suite. So this is an example of a control coupling report. And for ISO 26262, we also provide function coverage and call coverage. So function coverage is the number of functions which are executed for a requirement-based test divided by the total number of functions that are available. And call coverage is number of calls that are executed from the function under test divided by the total number of function calls. So we are able to provide you percentage-wise after completing a requirement-based test, how much percentage of function coverage and call coverage has been achieved. So these reports can be taken as an artifact to support your SLC or SLD objective in ISO 26262. Now many a times we have even asked by many of the users about how do we justify if we don't get 100% code coverage, right? So many times we have seen that customer writing their own justifications. So with TBextremeplusJustify, we have included this feature in the tool where if you have an infeasible combination of input where some portion you are not able to execute. In such scenario, you can actually create a justification report within the tool. So you can write the justification in Deviation itself. So you can see here, now if my coverage is not 100%, I can just right click, I can write my justification and I have a choice where after writing the justification, either the code coverage can be increased to 100% or I can make sure that, okay, the justification is there and the code coverage remains the same thing. So I can decide what should be the code coverage after writing the justification. And a separate justification report will be available where you can see the function has infeasible input combination due to which the coverage remains at 71%. So you don't need to write justification for each and every function where there are infeasible conditions. And you can maintain this INI files in the backend also, and if you wish to reuse it, you can do that. And the next one is LDRA's worst case execution timing. Okay, so don't confuse it with a system level time profiler which is provided by the most of the debugging tools. I'm just talking about performing a timing analysis during the development life cycle. So imagine the V model what we have. I have got a set of low-level requirements and I'm developing some of the code for the low-level requirements. So one of my requirement is I have an encryption algorithm at the low level and it need to be fed with an input data. So what I can do is like I need to make sure that my encryption algorithm is good enough to handle different types of load. So I can do a black box level unit testing for my low-level requirement. My code is under development. I have only few functions. I don't have the whole project, right? So what I can do is like, I can create repeated test case and I can feed it with a different combination of inputs. Then I can see that how much time it has been taken for execution in black box mode. So it's not in white box mode because we don't want to measure the coverage. The objective is to measure the time taken for executing this encryption algorithm, right? So I get a WCT diagram where I can see all the test cases. You can see the blue colored one, these are different test cases and the measured time. So you can easily identify what is the best case as well as what is the worst case what is the minimum time that is observed as well as the maximum time that is observed. So we get the graphical reports, and along with that we get a detailed report of all the test cases and the timing information. So this can be configured for any target environment, including multi-core. Okay. So again, I am summarizing, don't confuse it with the system level time profilers. So this is at the low level. All right. So we get all this information by running repeated test cases. And we are able to provide you process compliance report. So if you want to comply with process like DRDO guidelines for software development, or DO 178C or ISO 26262, so on the right hand side you can see the DRDO guidelines, different levels, DO 178C levels, 26262 levels. So we can customize the reports by adding the columns and what artifacts are required to support these objectives. Because as you know that except DO 178C, if it is ISO 26262 or DGSD, you can tailor the process standard, right? According to your needs during the project planning stage, you tailor the process standard and then you apply it. So when you tailor, many objectives may not be part of your tailored process. So in such case, to claim compliance, you may need to do modification in the final compliance report which you are trying to generate. So we provide the compliance report, and also we provide the facility to the user to configure these compliance required according to the tailored process objectives. All right. So let's see a sample report from the DRDO guidelines. So you can see here right from the planning stage, you can see the columns for different criticality levels from 1 to 5, and the LDRA toolsuite generated reports, the supporting reports you can see here. So all these reports can be generated for 178C or even for ISO 26262. Now the advantage is all these reports what we have seen so far from TB Vision, TB Manager or TB Run, we can just push to the vault, and the team lead or the functional safety manager, he will get a complete overview of the project. So what is the benefit by using the LDRA vault and the toolsuite? The allocation of VNV activities we can do for remote users who are working in different time slots. And also we can gather the individual user reports to a common repository. We can track and monitor. So anyone can do that, or the person who is assigned to do that, he can do that. It can be installed in the local server, or it can be installed on the enterprise servers, and audits can be quicker because you have gathered all the information together. So the auditor can just get into the system and he can see that who has done the activity, when he has done it, whether it is accepted by the manager, and whether it can be considered as an artifact for my final certification. So ultimately it is going to help you for compliance management within limited time. So that's how the vault is going to help you.